Okay, so today we're looking at section 4.2a. Okay, we're going to correct that assignment and then we're going to go through today's notes. Okay, now the purpose of today is to make sure you gets it, right? And I want you to think about this as video. I mean, when people like take a video of whatever skill you're practicing, okay, whether it be hockey, baseball, basketball, track, whatever you're doing, we can look at how you're doing a certain skill. And then on the video, we can point those things out or even have you watch the video of some of the best people in the world doing it. And you can see what you should do on different aspects of that skill. When we do it here in class, it's really about you doing your work and then correcting your work and noticing the discrepancies or the mistakes you make along the way and making sure you change them. Remember, I can't go over every problem in the world because I can only go over the types of skills that you would apply to situations that are similar. So you got to make sure you're comfortable with applying the skill. And if you're not, we should talk. Okay, we should check out what's going on. So in today's correction, I'm hoping that you've got this all done, and it's like watching the video. Okay, how did you do? Okay, ooh, do you really want to do it that way? Let's make the change. Okay, so in number one, what angle is included between segment GM and segment MT? It should be angle M. And in all honesty, it's because that's the repeated letter. Okay, which sides include angle T? Well, if I talk about angle T, it's side TM or it's inside TG. What angle is included between GT and MG? Well, angle G, because it's the repeated letter. Okay, so that's the one that's included. So that's the stuff we're working on as we go through. And now that we've got that understood, let's look at this next one. I want you to prove, just using side, 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 the triangles that are provided. Now, if you can't, you don't have enough information, and that's what you've got to do. And I'm fully aware that there are some that we can use side, angle, side. But our purpose here was just working with side, side, side. Okay? So if it wasn't side, 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 it was not enough info. In this first one, it's not enough info because I am missing the angle, or the segment markings to show that they're the same. So not enough info. Now in this next one, although today we might be able to use side angle side because of that reflexive, yesterday's direction stated can use side, side, side. And if you can't, not enough info. So not enough info. Here in 6, do you see I can do reflexive and I got side, side, side? Okay, so I've got side, side, side congruence as my solving the two triangles because I've got a reflexive property that allows me to talk about KO being congruent to OK. Now with those said, I'm going to speed up the answers on this. When we're looking at 7, we got not enough info. When we're looking at 8, we got side, side, side congruence. The two triangles are congruent to one another. In 9, it does not meet the side, side, side needs. I don't have all three sides in one, congruent to all three sides in another. In 10, I don't have any markings for sides. I can only show one side, and that's a reflexive one, so not enough info. In 11, not enough information. And in 12, I have side, side, side congruence for the two triangles. Are there any clarifications, anything you'd like to talk about or have discussed with them? Okay. Now, in 13, we're talking about triangle sum theorem. I'm looking at values of a triangle, and I'm talking about how they're related. So when we're doing this, I'm just, adding all three angles up and coming up to this 180 and finding what x is. And then 13, it's 99. In 14, I'm looking at x is equal to 68. Are there any questions on those? Okay, flipping our page. Maybe. In 14, or 15, excuse me, I've got a flowchart proof, okay? In my flowchart proof that I've got going on here, I have my given, I have reflexive, because you see MK congruent to KM, or KM congruent to MK. And then I have my congruent statement. Now, here's the thing about my congruent statement. That's what I was to be proved, JKM. Okay, so I'm going to rewrite this. JKM. We've got triangle JKM is congruent to triangle LMK. Are you okay with this? Okay, any questions? Now we got the last two, the fun part, okay, as far as the proofs are concerned. And we're going to get after those. Maybe. In the first one, hopefully you're recognizing what's going on. I'm going to get these done, excuse me. In the first one, I'm looking at the picture, and this is our first time talking about F is the midpoint of segment GI since chapter 1 and 2. Okay, midpoint is talking about a point that's halfway between the endpoints. Okay, so when I do that, I actually have two parts of that segment congruent. So if I'm looking at segment IG, IF is congruent to FG, or I should say accordingly, IF is congruent to GF, okay, because corresponding angles matter, because of definition of midpoint. That's information that we know from chapter 1. So in this, I would take my given and put it right here on this side, and for my reason, I would put given. And I would write it in, but it's not fit all day, so it's not going to fit anytime soon again. It feels like I'm writing with a big old crayon in a small space. It doesn't work real well. But I do want to show you what it means to have a midpoint. So I'm going to show you what that means here. I got IF is congruent to GF. And I've got that by definition of segment midpoint, or you could just say of midpoint, because we only have midpoints of segments. Okay, we have angle bisectors, and the angles are only bisected, so we can talk about bisector of angles or definition of angle bisectors if we're cutting an angle in half. This is a segment. But now, keep in mind what I got now. I've got three sides congruent to three corresponding sides in the other triangle. So now I can say the two triangles are congruent because of side, side, side congruence. Questions, comments, remarks about the proof itself, clarifications at all? Now, this next one. This one's pretty straight up. I've got W, Z, congruent to ZS, which is congruent to SD, which is congruent to W, DW, and that's given. Well, I know ZD is congruent to DZ because of reflexive. And now, if I just kind of relive this a little bit, I'm looking, hey, look, I've got triangle WZD is congruent to triangle SDZ because of side, side, side congruence. Did those go okay for you yesterday? Now, I had some people just skip them entirely. Keep in mind, the stuff that we did yesterday really set us up to do well on these. And you know the big three. You know to put the given line in, and on the bottom left corner, you should know what we're going to prove. Okay? Those are the big three. On each one of those, you'd had half the points. Okay? So keep that in mind as we're working with them. 18 and 19. They're very similar in nature. I want you to be aware, however, you've done this distance formula thing before. We did it in chapter 1. You did it in Expo. You did it in linear algebra. You did it in pre-algebra, working with formulas. And now I can guarantee you're doing it again this year, okay, because I already know it's on the final. And not just the final for first semester, but it's also on the final for second semester. And it's also going to be reviewed in Algebra 2, College Algebra, Pre-Calc, after next year, okay? So let's make sure we get our mind around it so it's actually a review. I have the distance formula here. You got to keep in mind the distance formula works for coordinate pairs, x and y, coordinate pairs. And as I'm stepping this in, I'm looking at AB, okay? I'm looking at BC. Well, I'm just going to do AB first. I'm looking for the distance between AB. I can even shortcut this problem to find AB. And I know students go, what in the world are you talking about? What do you mean find AB? Find AB means finds the distance between A and B. It means pull out that distance formula and let's do this. So what it is 1 minus 5. That's my difference of my x's. Those are my x's squared. And then I've got add 4 minus 5, the difference of my y's. I have negative 4 squared, which is 16. I have negative 1 squared, which is 1. 16 plus 1 is the square root of 17. A cautionary warning. I've had students putting this into their calculator today and coming up with, Bloom, this is negative 16. After you square these values inside the square root, the distance formula, they shouldn't be negative afterwards. You should make sure that you recognize that there's a parenthesis around that, which means this take negative 4 times itself twice. It's negative 4 times negative 4, which is positive 16. So that's where my square root of 17 comes from. Now, I've got to find the distance between B, C. B is 5, C is 2, and the Y's are 5 and 2 as well. So that's kind of fun, because I only have to do one of these, really. 5 minus 2 is 3, right? Square it, I get 9. Add it to itself, I get 18. So I got the square root of 18. Now, I've got to do it one more time because I have to find the distance AC because I'm talking about a triangle and it's got 3 sides. So I've got AC. So I got 1 minus 2 squared plus 4 minus 2 squared. I do that and I get myself the square root of 5. Okay? That's the first triangle. I still have to find the measures of the second triangle. So let's get that done. So my second triangle, I've got DE. I got negative 5 plus 1 because it's a minus a negative 1 squared plus 1 minus 0, which is just negative 4 squared, which is 16, plus 1, which is the square root of 17. Okay, I got EF. And EF is negative 1 plus 4, because it's subtracted negative 4, squared, plus 0 minus 3. Well, if this is 3 squared plus 3 squared, well, that's 9 plus 9, which is just the square root of 18. My last one, DF. Negative 5 plus 4, because it's subtracted negative 4, squared, that's 1. I got 1 minus 3, it's 2. It's a negative 2, but I squared it, it's 4. And now my answer is the square root of 5. Now I have some folks wondering why I didn't just take the square root of them. Well, if I did, it would still work. I'd just be comparing the decimal answers. This way, I'm just comparing, hey, look, the 5s are the same, the 18s are the same, square roots of, and the square root of 17s are the same. So I know these two triangles are congruent because they have the same side measures. So I have triangle ABC congruent to triangle DEF because of side, side, side congruence. Now, I'll let you in on a secret. 19 is done in a similar fashion, except I am not going to do it for you. I think after doing those 6, you have a pretty darn good idea on how to get this done. Don't hand it in without 19 done. I need you to practice it, okay? Because if you're not practicing, oopsie, okay? I want to make sure you're successful when I actually just say, hey, I want you to find BC on the test. And I have like 3 points out there. I have A, B, and C, and you just have to grab B and C and find their distance. Okay? That's all I'm going to ask. People always come like, Bloom, what do you mean? I'm like, no. You got to know. So make sure you're feeling more comfortable with this, okay? Now, what we need to do next, if you are done with that, by the way, put your name on that and hand it forward. If you aren't done, finish it. Let's look at today's notes. I believe they're on page 5. Wrong ones. There we go. Thanks, kiddo. Waka, 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 waka. Well, I can do that. I can do the notes thing, maybe. Gee whiz, I just made a mess. Yeah, welcome, sir. Thanks for the catch. Okay, any others? Okay, now, as we're going through this, keep in mind today. Now, yesterday's notes required you just to use side, side, side. Okay? And it was really cruel and horrible of me not to let you use your newfound skill of side angle side. So I was thinking about that last night, and I thought, hey, we got to go over these anyways. So read the directions. Notice it's the same pictures. The directions are different in my notes today on page 5. Yeah, it's 5. Okay? So it's the same stuff. And now all of a sudden, I get to consider side, 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 and side angle side. Won't that be fun? It'll be cool. We'll see the difference. So in this first one, it's still not enough information. It's the number one that people go, boom, come on. It's 2 sides and an angle. What's the deal? And you got to think about it. When I use side angle side, that angle is supposed to be right smack here, not over here. So because it's over there and these 2 puppies aren't congruent, that's why it's not enough information. Okay? In 5, I'm looking at this EF as reflexive property. It's congruent to itself. So I have side angle side. I'm going to actually say, hey, you know, I got that EF congruent to EF because of reflexive property, in case someone's reading my stuff and go, boom, you're wrong. I go, no, dude, really, I got EF congruent to EF because of reflexive. So because of that, I got my angle is made by the 2 sides that are congruent in each triangle. I'm golden. It's good to go. Now in 6, because of reflexive, again, I get to, notice how I say that? I get to say that the 2 triangles are congruent because of reflexive by side, side, side. Now, I've done some examples. It is now your turn to use the power that you have. Okay? Remember, with great power comes great responsibility. It's time to practice and see if you can control the power. Go ahead, do 7 through 12. Go get those done. Get after them. Remember, you're going up through 12. You got to read stuff, read stuff. Check it out. See what up? Sorry, Halferbecker. I apologize. You missed nothing. No, Smithy. I'm so sorry. No one you've been looking at me like a nutcase. Where am I? There you go. Where's these? Okay, let's try this. Had a lot of time. So hopefully, ready? How you doing? How you doing? Are you doing okay? Do you get the difference? I was like, how am I wrong? Okay, I'm not wrong. I gotta look through my glasses sometimes. Okay, so now, moving on. The ones on the left are word bank for the stuff on the left of the proof. The ones on the right are word bank for the ones on the right for the proof. Go! Go, Sarah. Lexi. Smithy. Emma. Okay. You guys got your test back? First thing I want you to do, take off your note cards before we do anything else with them. Just take them off. Okay? You got it second hour. Okay. All right, so now, or like, yeah, help time. Now, keep in mind, take your note cards off your tests. I don't want them. I will ask for them back, but not right now. I'm just going to give you a little bit more time with this. A little more time. To get through this. Yes, Mr. Stroud. Yes, sir. There's an angle in between the two sides for SAS. Okay, so that angle has to be, that vertical angle is SAS. So now I got SAS for the final for those. This, like in number 12, you have all three sides, congruent to all three sides. I could use this angle, but I want to liken it this way. If I'm writing a paper, just because it's a fact, I'm not going to include it if it doesn't help me with my argument. Okay, so in this case, it is a fact and it works, but my argument is much stronger with side, side, side in 12 because they gave all that stuff to me. So I'm pretty much done. It's also a shorter proof. It's just 2, you know, versus, you know, if I say, well, I got to talk about the vertical angles and then use that. Okay, I could use it, but it's not as fast. That's all. Now, let's talk about 13. So when we're talking about this, I've got given. First thing, are you okay with that? But now I'm looking at this, oh, I got vertical angles. I see vertical angles. I see vertical angles, right? So when I'm seeing vertical angles, I got to talk about them. So BCA and DCE are vertical angles. Well, I now have a triangle with two sides and an angle that those two sides make, congruent to a triangle that has two sides and an angle that those two sides make, side angle side, and I'm golden. Okay, are you all right with this? Okay, is it feeling better? Now, check out this next one. Whenever I give you parallel lines, you should think 95% of the time alternate interior angles. That's the only thing I'm going to tell you. Go. Same rules apply as the other one. Okay, so what's the first thing I got to start with? Given. So let's put it down. I got a given. Let's get it down. Okay, so I got the given going on. What's the next thing you want to go with? Say it louder. Awesome. We're going to go with alternate interior angles. Okay, now I got to ask, who went with reflexive next? Are you wrong if you did it that way? No. Okay. These next two steps are like putting your socks on before your pants, or your pants on before your socks. Still going to get you dressed, so it's fine. Okay. And three, I kind of alluded to it. It's reflexive. And my last one, I'm all good. We got her done. Okay. Got to ask. Compared to Monday, how's it feeling? 1, 2, 3, or 4? Okay. 1, 2, 3, or 4. Hey, that's looking good. Our Tribbiani moment is working out for us pretty nicely. Okay, what I want you to do right now is on Tuesday and Wednesday, we looked at our yellow sheet. Look at your yellow sheet right now on the very back of your notes, first page of notes. Is there more stuff you now know that you can check off? Is there more stuff you now know that you can check off? Go ahead and check it off. Okay, this is your individual check. This is not only just things that we have presented and we're starting to get, but stuff I'm going to present or hopefully going to answer questions on of you in the near future. Okay, so check out that back of the yellow sheet and start checking those things off that you know now. Okay, that you feel more comfortable on versus what we did 2 days ago. Okay, or the day before the last time you checked these if you were gone yesterday. Okay, now, here's the deal. We have today's assignment, and we have today's, I gave you your test back. What I'd like you to do is 2 things about your test. Add up the bottom left-hand corner. I think I put the total points in the bottom left-hand corner of each test. Okay, now, make sure it is actually the value that I have for your total out of 60 on the front side. And then take your calculator and divide that total so you can check the percentage. And then the last thing you need to check is check campus. Make sure I don't have fat fingers. Okay, I want to make sure I put it in right. Okay, so check that too. That's the type of thing I would like you guys doing all the time. Not that I make mistakes, but I could. And it is a great possibility. I mean, if you think about how many calculations I've got to do to correct the test, okay, it's about 720 choices, okay, first of all. And then with all those choices, I got to add stuff up. So it's another 720. Okay, so that's 1440. And then I got to add them again, you know, as I enter them in, do my other stuff. So now it's another, 400 I've got to do. I put them in the put them in my grade book. I put them in the computer. It's another 400 choices and doing stuff and everything. So holy cats. if I just screw up 4 times, I'm still at 99.9%. So make sure yours isn't the thing I may have made a screw up on. Check your totals, check your percent, check your campus. Make sure that you are the accountant of your grade. If there is a concern, let's talk. That's how we clarify things and clean up those discrepancies. Okay? Because I'm not like a bank. I don't have 2 other people checking my work. Okay, I just have me. Boy, we're understaffed. Okay, now after you do that, for retakes, retake information has been posted, but now you know, and I've got green sheets I'm going to go pick up in a second here. Want to make sure you guys know what's going on with it, along with the max on a retake can be 75%. Okay, I want you to learn how to do it the first time, especially for Chapter 4. Chapter 4's test is going to be the 17th of November. I won't see you for another 10 days after that test. And then I give you another week and a half to do the correctives and prepare for a retest if you did not do well. That's like 3 weeks, man, before you get an opportunity to really score on the test. That's like doing it all over again. So let's do it right the first time. Let's reread our stuff. Let's make sure we know what's going on. Let's seek out attention of our mistakes and make sure that they are corrected. Because doing it right the first time allows you to score higher than the 75, but it also doesn't make you have to redo it 3 weeks later. Okay, so that's going to be a huge thing. Does that make sense? So make sure we're getting it right the first time this time.